On your Wednesday edition of Locked On NHL, so many storylines out of last night's Habs Sabres game. Patrik Laine gets a hat trick, and Buffalo now winless in 11. Plus, the Chicago Blackhawks had an enormous comeback win against one of the NHL's best teams.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another edition of Locked On NHL, your team every day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we have local experts on the biggest stories. I'm Ross Levitan. You can find me 5 days a week over at Locked On Ottawa Senators. With me, as always, it's Mike DiStefano from Locked On Toronto Maple Leafs. Today's episode brought to you by Bilt Rewards. Start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbilt.com/lockedonnhl. Today is Wednesday, December 18th, and Mikey, I'm going to do my best to not start this show with the red-hot Ottawa Senators. Instead, we'll begin with the red-hot Patrik Laine, who's got 6 goals already since returning from injury.
Yeah, big game last night, and they absolutely crushed the Sabres, which we'll get to in a minute because, man, it's low times down there. But high times for Patrik Laine. I mean, he's come back and he's fit in seamlessly. He's got 6 goals already, had a nice hat trick last night, just seems to be filling the net, doing exactly what Montreal thought he'd be able to do, wanted him to be able to do, help this team score, help this team win games. And he did that just last night. It's really good to see Laine back, healthy, scoring. That's when the NHL's at its best.
It's unbelievable how everyone knows. It's kind of like Ovechkin, where you know where he's going to be on the power play, but nobody can stop it. All 3 of his goals last night were in the exact same spot.
Yeah, hell of a shot, man. Like, just sets up in the office and knows exactly how to put the puck in the back of the net. He just, an unbelievable release. He's one of the best goal scorers in the world, one of the best in the world. And, for whatever reason, it hasn't worked out the last couple of years, injuries, and his mindset just didn't seem to be there when he was in Columbus, but seems to have been rejuvenated when he got traded to Montreal. And I think that this trade is going to work out very well for the Habs, and it already is starting to. Like, 6 goals. How many games he been back? He's only been
7.
back for what? 7 games? Like, dude, goal per game, basically. I know he had a hat trick, which helps that, obviously. But, like, if this guy can rattle off and score 20, 25 goals and miss the first 2 months of the season, that's pretty stellar stuff from Patrik Laine.
Yeah, and the Habs are reaping the rewards there. 6-1 win over Buffalo last night. And since Patrik Laine returned, they're 4-3-0. So not world beaters, but based on where they were earlier, they are starting to string some better performances together. Now, maybe Buffalo should be an asterisk because the Sabres' winless streak has hit 11 games, and they just look hopeless out there. They had a lot of home losses. The crowd was getting on them. I don't know if you saw that fans were bringing inflatable palm trees to the arena after comments from GM Kevin Adams saying, we don't have palm trees here. Well, if you look at the top of the NHL standings, the Winnipeg Jets are first in the National Hockey League in points. I don't know if there's any palm trees in Manitoba, but I think that's a bit of an excuse from the Buffalo Sabres now on year 14 since they've last made the playoffs. How would you try to fix the Sabres right now?
Dude, I don't know. Like, you have to make a trade has to come. But what's so weird is Terry Pegula, the owner of the Buffalo Sabres, literally apparently flew out to Montreal before the game and had a big meeting with the team after 10 straight losses, and essentially tried to give them a vote of confidence and say that he believes that the solutions are in the room, right? They're in the room. Don't expect a coaching firing, a GM firing, or a trade. It's got to come from within. And then they go out with that uninspiring effort the night after and lose 6-1 to the Montreal Canadiens, one of the worst teams in the NHL. I mean, that can't feel good if you're Terry Pegula. So I'd be curious, man, like if that pep talk didn't work and it's not just they lost, they got clobbered. Like, if you're Pegula, how could you possibly just sit there and stand still now after that?
I don't think you can, but what do you do? Because this seems like the exact moment where teams take a big swing and fall flat on their face and get hosed because everyone in the league knows how desperate they are.
Well, they've done that so many times, right? Like they did that with Jack Eichel. Basically, I mean, there was obviously the injury, but still, it was a team that kind of was okay with going into a quick retool because the core just didn't work. Whatever Reinhardt and Eichel and like that core just didn't work, so they wanted to go in a different direction. And now this core is not working, and that's been the issue. It's been a team that's gone through what 2-3 different rebuilds since they've last made the playoffs. Like they just can't seem to make it work for whatever reason. And obviously, I don't know what the solution is because I like the roster. I think they have good players. I really do. And I think that they've done a good job of balancing things out. They last year you got decent goaltending from Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. This year hasn't been there. Devin Levi hasn't really been able to give you much either. Like it's just the goaltending isn't there. Defensively, they're giving up a lot of chances, and they're not scoring at the rate that they should be. The problems are, truthfully, they are kind of within, but I don't know how you change it. I really don't know how, unless you make a big change that kind of shakes things up.
I'm just at a loss with this team because on paper, like they've got some pretty decent pieces. No, like, am I crazy to think that?
That's what I'm saying, Brooksy. Rewind 30
I
seconds
know,
ago.
but I just don't have any. I have no better insight than that because it's like, why isn't Dylan Cousins producing offensively?
13
Why?
points. He's got 13 points in 30 games. What, like that Dylan Cousins, I thought 2 years ago was going to be a stud, 75 to 80 point player for the rest of his career. The last 2 years, nothing, man. He hasn't been able to do anything. Like, looked like Tage Thompson at the beginning of the year was finding his scoring touch and was going to light the league up and, have another 40 to 45 goal season. He's kind of slowed down. Alex Tuck, he's not really scoring at that big of an elite pace. Like Jack Quinn hasn't turned into the all-world goal scorer that, we thought he might have been coming out of junior. Zach Benson.
He's probably one of the biggest whiffs this year. He's got 3 goals so far this season. And like, Zach Benson's doing things away from the puck and he's still 19 years old. Like this team should not be relying on Zach Benson to be the guy, but he had a better year last year. He's only got 4 goals this year, 10 points. He was at 30 points last year and 11 goals on the season. But I don't know if the answer's within. I know Terry Pegula says it is.
I agree.
I don't think it is.
I just think it's spoiled. Like everything here, it's just spoiled. Like there's just something wrong. They need a better. They just need something to shake things up. They really, really do. I don't know what it is exactly, who it is that has to go. I'm not in the room. But to me, it's what's been out there is absolutely unacceptable. It's been absolutely unacceptable, and something does have to change, especially after last night's loss. You just can't go in there, have a rah-rah speech. It's from within, and then the next night your team lays a stinker like that and gets walloped 6-1.
The next night,
something, dude. And right, the next night, literally.
Not even that. But they were down 1-0, 17 seconds into the game.
Yeah, like. Like, imagine being Pegula watching that game last night, where it's like, what more can I do? Like, what more he could do is make a big change. Which, again, 24 hours prior to that, he said he wasn't going to. He was going to let the team figure it out. But then after that performance, it's like, man, clearly words aren't doing anything. We have to take action. That's where I think they're at.
Well, lots more from those storylines. Patrik Laine and the Buffalo Sabres with our friends over at Locked On Canadiens and Locked On Buffalo Sabres. On the other side, we'll take a look at the teams we cover each and every day, the Ottawa Senators and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Some news on Anthony Stolarz, Linus Ullmark starting to find his rhythm. And we'll wrap up the show. We've cut, this is one of the better comebacks we've seen this season, and Jack Bushman from Locked On Blackhawks will be by to break down what was an improbable comeback against the Washington Capitals. That's all next. You're listening to Locked On NHL, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by Select Quote, the World Series, the Super Bowl, the Olympics, the Stanley Cup playoffs. The world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing: teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. Select Quote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's end zone. SelectQuote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. You invest so much time to take care of yourself, to be the healthiest, best version of you. SelectQuote exclusive policies can reward that effort. And these policies are more affordable than you think. You can get coverage for up to $1 million for as little as $20 per month. Head to selectquote.com and a licensed insurance agent will call you right away with the right policy for your life and your budget. SelectQuote, they shop, you save. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. Go to selectquote.com/lockedonnhl today to get started. That's selectquote.com/lockedonnhl.
Today's episode is also brought to you by Bilt Rewards. If you're a renter, listen up. This is a total game changer. Thanks to Bilt, you can now earn points on rent payments just like you do with groceries or travel. Paying rent now comes with serious perks, and it's completely free to join. You can earn valuable Bilt points on your rent and everyday spending at no extra cost. Redeem points towards flights, hotel stays, and even future rent payments. With over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels in their programs, their possibilities are endless. Access unique experiences that are exclusive to Bilt members. Start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/lockedonnhl. That's joinbuilt.com/lockedonnhl. And make sure you use our link so they know that we sent you. Don't wait. Start earning rewards today with Bilt Rewards. Welcome back, Locked On NHL, your team every day. Here at the Locked On Podcast Network, we have local experts on the biggest stories 5 days a week. Jack Bushman will be by soon to chat about the Chicago Blackhawks. But let's start with your Toronto Maple Leafs. Mikey, it's been a great start to the season for the Leafs, sitting atop the Atlantic Division right now with a 40 points, 19-10-2 record. What's been the biggest key to success for the Leafs? Although, 6-4 in the last 10.
Well, goaltending has been the biggest success for the Leafs, goaltending and defense, because for some reason this team has not been able to score goals this year. They're averaging under 3 goals a game, which is not what you expect out of this Leafs team. Over the last few seasons, they've always been up at the top when it comes to goals per game. The offense has always been there, and they've lacked defense and goaltending. It's been completely flipped in reverse under Craig Berube, which is what we've been asking for, but it'd be nice to get a little bit more balance in the lineup. But goaltending has definitely been, I guess, the biggest surprise, fueling this team's early season record. When you look at Anthony Stolarz and what he's been able to do, was leading the NHL in save percentage prior to his injury, qualified save percentage, that is, prior to his injury. And, Joseph Woll also like a .924 save percentage right there. In terms of team save percentage, it's second best in the NHL behind, I believe, only the Winnipeg Jets and Connor Hellebuck. So it's been terrific. It really has. The team has done a pretty good job of limiting scoring chances. They're playing, some pretty direct, risk-free hockey, I guess. It's not quite what we've been used to seeing, and it has caused them some offensive production, obviously, but they're winning, right? They're winning games. They're leading the Atlantic Division to this point. So, who am I to criticize what it looks like, because the results have been there for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
And what's the latest on Anthony Stolarz? One of the best stories in the National Hockey League this year after getting the Stanley Cup as a backup with the Florida Panthers. He's looking like he's out for a little while.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate because Stolarz honestly has been, you could argue, the best bargain signing, or maybe the best free agent signing from this past offseason. Through 17 games, 9-5-2. He's got a shutout, a .215 goals against, a .927 save percentage. And I think he had like 10 goals saved above expected prior to the injury. So he's legitimately been a Vezina candidate. I think FanDuel, again, he was a top 5 odds on FanDuel to win the Vezina when he went down with his injury. Looks like it's going to be long-term. 4 to 6 weeks is what Brad Treliving, the general manager, came out and said yesterday. Sounds like he has a little pebble in his knee that they found.
How do you get that?
Dude, I'm not a doctor. I could not tell you, but I guess something jarred loose, and there's a little shard of something they found in the
Ooh.
imaging when they did an MRI on his knee, and he wasn't able to like extend his knee fully without sharp pain. So without being able to straighten out your leg as a goaltender, it's a little bit of an issue. So they're gonna clean it up, doing a procedure today, actually in New York, and the timeline is hopefully he's back and ready to go in 4 to 6 weeks, and hopefully he could pick up where he left off because he was playing stellar goaltending for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and they desperately need that in this city.
Speaking of stellar goaltending, ask me about the Ottawa Senators, Mikey.
Are you back on board? Are Sens fans finally drinking the Kool-Aid again when it comes to Linus Ullmark? Because there was a little bit of time there where this guy was afraid to put on equipment at the end of October, there, beginning of November, and people were kind of souring on Linus Ullmark. But he's been arguably the best goalie in the league last couple of weeks. You back on board here? He's got your Sens back in a playoff spot.
Hey, latest the Sens have been in a playoff spot since April 2017. I made a video for Seth and JD yesterday just quickly outlining how ridiculous his numbers have been since November 25th. He's got 2 shutouts in his last 3 games. He's got a below 1 goals against average in his last 5. Like he is, it's outrageous. And not only that, but Pilsy and I got into a huge argument on Friday's show about the Sens have a bunch of back-to-backs coming up, and you know the NHL classic, 1 goalie gets each game. Well, you never want to see injury, and Anton Forsberg pulled up in the pre-game warm-up, playing Super Bowl or something, before the game on Saturday. So Ullmark had to play back-to-back, and on Saturday, he was outrageous against the Pittsburgh Penguins, choked up on his stick and pulled one off, a sure goal off the goal line, made some sick saves on Sidney Crosby too. So yeah, he's obviously been the main factor for Ottawa's success right now. Was just named the 3rd star of the week behind Leon Draisaitl and Nathan McKinnon, 2 decent players there. And his save percentage, Mikey, 3 weeks ago was .885. It's up to .915 now because he's on that kind of a run. So he's all the way back, and I think Sens fans are cautiously optimistic. Like last night was game 1 of a franchise record 9-game road trip because the World Juniors are in Ottawa. So they've got some tough matchups too, Mikey. Like look at the schedule right now. And how rare do you see this too? Sens play in Calgary tonight, then in Vancouver on Saturday, and then back to Edmonton on Sunday. Like usually you do Edmonton, Calgary right beside each other. So they've got 3 games in 4 nights there. Then they come off their break with a back-to-back on Saturday, Sunday in Winnipeg, in Minnesota. That's a tough back-to-back. Then you've got a few days off over New Year's. Then you got St. Louis and Dallas on a back-to-back as well. And then you finish the road trip in Detroit a couple days later. So this road trip, it's not going to make the season. There's still a lot of hockey left either way. But if they go 1-8 or 2-7, then all of a sudden you're way behind the 8 ball. So they got off to a great start, 3-0 win over Seattle. And yeah, to answer your question, they're back. And you talk about value contracts, Mikey. I agree with you on Stolarz, but your guy, Adam Gaudette's been outrageous. 13 goals on the season. We're looking ahead to the Calgary game tomorrow on today's Locked On Sens. Adam Gaudette would be leading the Calgary Flames, who are a playoff team, in goals this season. He's got 13 goals, making league minimum. And over the Sens' 8-2-1 stretch in the last 11 games, he leads the Sens in even strength points with 8.
Yeah, I mean, the hockey god, brother. The god flow. It's crazy what Gaudette's doing. Roundhouse kicking his wife and being absolute menace.
Oh, that video was wild. Dude, I forgot about that.
Oh, that's tough. Yeah, that lives in Canucks Twitter infamy.
Now, everyone should note that this was not a domestic situation.
Yeah, right. Correct. Yeah, this was a mistake. He was at a wedding, his own wedding, actually, and they were doing a dance or whatever and accidentally kicked his wife in the face.
Oh my God. Party trick gone wrong. It's like, hey, look how flexible I is. I can kick over her head.
No, did not happen that way. It's not funny. It's not funny. I don't know
he's bounced back from that low to all-time highs. And I already saw
took him a few years because he spent some time in the American League prior to finally breaking out this season, but
led that league in goals last year at 44 goals. This guy scored at every level. And after the game on November 25th, the game that started this whole streak, he had an all-time quote, Mikey. He said, you keep asking me if I'm surprised, but the truth is I'm not. I've scored at every level and it was just a matter of time. So Hey,
I like
you
the
got to
confidence. I like
love
the
confidence.
confidence.
You
I like
got to
it.
love it. So good on Adam Gaudette. Again, showing that there's always unsung heroes in the National Hockey League. Just look at the Nashville Predators with their shutout win over the New York Rangers. So we could have done a segment on the Rangers, man. John Chick over at Locked On Rangers is reeling right now with the way things are going. Adam Wilsby gets his first career NHL goal to put that one to bed in the third period. So unlikely heroes, one of the great reasons why we love the National Hockey League. And on the other side, an unlikely win. The Chicago Blackhawks with a great comeback over the Washington Capitals. Let's hear from Jack Bushman. You're listening to Locked On NHL, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. If you love sports, you're going to love Prize Picks, the best place to turn your sports knowledge into real money. Whether it's hockey, football, or any of your favorite sports, Prize Picks makes it easy to get in on the action. You can now win up to 1,000 times your money on Prize Picks. Plus, this holiday season, they're giving away $30 million in rewards during Picksmas and offering 2 free picks in December. And when your picks hit, Prize Picks makes it easy to cash out so you can get your money fast in as little as 15 minutes. This week on Prize Picks, I'm eyeing the hockey board. A big week before the holiday break. I'm looking at Brady Tkachuk shots on goal every single night. This guy always puts pucks on net. And why don't we throw in an Austin Matthews anytime goal scorer? It's so simple to make my picks and have fun with friends and potentially cashing out fast. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 instantly. Prize Picks. Run your game. Welcome back to Locked On NHL, your team every day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making us your first listen on this Wednesday, December 18th. Make sure you're following all of our local experts on the biggest stories 5 days a week. Chicago Blackhawks come back to beat Washington 3-2, and our Jack Bushman is on the scene.
What a comeback. Blackhawks storm back from a 2-0 deficit in the third period for 3 unanswered goals. They win back-to-back games for just the second time this season and the first since early November. All started with an Ilya Mikheyev shorthanded tally in the opening minute of the third period. Then TJ Brodie went on to tie the game, and Ryan Donato with his team-leading 11th tally for the game winner. Hard-nosed, gritty type of play, just driving the puck to the net. Good things continue to happen for him, and the Blackhawks pick up a huge character victory. They'll go for a third consecutive win, something they haven't done since the 2022-23 campaign on Thursday against the Seattle Kraken. But for more thoughts on this epic comeback, be sure to check out tomorrow's episode of Locked On Blackhawks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks, Jack. Did I hear that right? They have not won 3 games in a row in over a year.
In Bedard's entire career, he's never won 3 games in a row. Yes.
Oh my goodness. Hey, great to see Jack happy. Did you start getting flashbacks there when he said the goal scorer was Mikheyev, then TJ Brodie?
Oh, I know, right? It's like, oh yeah, all these former Leafs out there, scoring goals for other teams. No, I do not miss either of those. You know what? Actually, Mikheyev was a good player. Brodie was great, obviously, when he was TJ Brodie. The wheels kind of fell off of him last year, and I mean, based on what's happening in Chicago, I don't think he's turned back into Victor Hedman by any stretch of the imagination. But he was a good player. Mikheyev was a good player too. He just wanted too much money. I mean, the fact that guy's making like $4.5 million is just insane to me. That contract was crazy that Vancouver signed. The fact that they were able to get out of it and get rid of him and send him to Chicago was just did not expect for that to happen. But hey, he helped spark a comeback for the Blackhawks last night against Washington. Like, that's the thing. That was against Washington. That was going into the game. That's your worst team in the NHL versus the best team in the NHL in terms of points percentage. So that's an impressive victory for Chicago to stick through it and, come back all in the third period and come back to win the hockey game. Very impressive win for a young Blackhawks team.
Teuvo Teravainen with 3 assists in the third period to help spark that comeback. And if you haven't seen it, Andrew Mangiapane's goal in the first period, highlight reel stuff, thing of beauty there. With Chicago, though, are you surprised they're still so far at the bottom, making the coaching change and all that. Like, where are you at with the overall impression of Chicago? I had to pinch myself and remember that Connor Bedard's still the third youngest player in the National Hockey League, even though he's already hit 100 games. Last night was Connor Bedard's 100th NHL game.
Yeah, I mean, no. The ultimate answer is no. I'm not surprised that they're still one of the worst teams in the NHL. Especially when you look at Connor Bedard, how much he struggled up until like 3 weeks ago, and now he's been playing pretty well. But he went a full calendar month without scoring a goal. I mean, that's supposed to be your meal ticket bell cow sniper. You're not going to win a lot of hockey games if he's not scoring goals, and that's where they found themselves throughout the month of November. But I do look at the team and I'm thinking to myself, I was surprised that they were as bad as they've been, like this bad, because they actually have added some decent players. Like I keep hearing, yeah, Connor Bedard, who does he have to play with? Like he doesn't have anyone to play with. Well, they added Tyler Bertuzzi, they added Teuvo Teravainen, they have Taylor Hall, they have Nick Foligno. Like there are pieces, there are players on this team that are pretty solid that you can look at and say these are top 6 players. Like these can definitely help Connor Bedard, do something offensively and produce offensively. But for whatever reason, they went through a terrible, terrible stretch in November where they just could not put up any offense. They weren't getting saves and stops. But things seem to be rounding out. They're starting to kind of find their game a little bit with the coaching change. This Frank Nazar kid's up. I think that he's a good young player who's killing it in the American League. So hopefully he can do something with this squad. But ultimately, I do not have high expectations for Chicago this year. I still think that it's a team that's a couple of years out from doing any damage.
And how about the other side of that coin, the Washington Capitals? They're one of the great stories in the National Hockey League. Pierre-Luc Dubois gets his 5th. Mangiapane is 7th. It just goes to show you it's the offseason acquisitions that are still producing for them. And that doesn't even look in goal where, Logan Thompson's been incredible. I know last night wasn't his best, 20-save performance, but like it felt like the Brian McClellan really pressed the right buttons with that organization. And Spencer Carberry from his time as an assistant with the Toronto Maple Leafs feels like he's the kind of guy that's easy to play for.
Well, he was someone who was very talented and had a good offensive game plan, right? Like he was the power play coach here in Toronto, ran the forward bench. So, the fact that this team's leading the league in goals doesn't surprise me because their head coach is very offensively driven. But what they've been able to get out of some of these guys who are having breakout seasons is what's so incredible. Like, yeah, there was the Ovechkin story, had 15 goals in 18 games, and it was looking rosy, looking like he was going to surpass Gretzky this year, and everything looked great, and the team was winning. And then he went down and he got hurt. But since then, the team was, what have they been, like 8-2 or something like that since the injury? Like they've been unbelievable. They just continue to win games. They were number 1 in the league in points percentage yesterday prior to the game. You've got a guy like Dylan Strome who just continues to produce without Ovechkin. It's up to 38 points in 31 games. Dylan Strome has 38 points in 31 games. Chicago just gave this guy away a couple of years ago. Didn't feel that he was, worth tendering a contract offer to. And he's out here over a point per game. I bet you the Blackhawks could use a Dylan Strome right now to help out Connor Bedard. Connor McMichael's got 27 points. Alexi Protas, 16 points. Like, they're just getting a lot of production. Even Tom Wilson, he's got 13 goals so far this season through 31 games. He's producing again this year, nice and healthy. So they're getting a lot of offense from a lot of different parties. And it's really been a collective team effort for sure, specifically since Ovechkin's injury. And I think that they're the real deal. I think this is a legitimate, well-balanced hockey team that could make some noise here come playoff time.
And you hit on a lot of the guys who have been there for quite some time, but like, look at the new additions too, man. Pierre-Luc Dubois has been a positive impact. Jacob Chikrin's got 9 goals already on the season. He's got 21 points in 26 games and a plus 12 after being dash 30 last year. You look at what they did bringing in Logan Thompson, who's been solid in goal, and even an early season trade bringing back Lars Eller. He's put up a couple points, 6 points in 16 games since joining the team there. Matt Roy, a plus player on the back end. Brandon Duhaime, plus player. Like they made so many off-season moves, and you wonder how sometimes it'll all fit together. Well, the proof's in the pudding with where the Washington Capitals find themselves this season. We'll see if they can keep that up. We've got more on that over at Locked On Washington Capitals. Mike, any final thoughts as we head into a final weekend before the holiday break?
No, just going to be watching that Leafs Stars game tonight. Don't know if you saw the lineup, but Craig Berube needs a little bit more offense. So we've got Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, and William Nylander all skating on the same line. Should be really interesting to see how that works out tonight.
Awesome. We'll be looking forward to that. For more from all of our local experts on the biggest stories, make sure you're on Locked On every day of the week, all over wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. For today, we say goodbye. For Mike DiStefano, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On NHL podcast, your team every day.